format them.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
cool. Um, Great. Yeah, I think I mentioned this in the video update, and I should have just messaged you directly. But I mean, I'm aware that I sent you a whole list of things. So whatever feels, you know, doable and fun for you is all that I'm really
It's all
asking.
doable. It's all
Okay,
doable and it's all fun.
great. Good to hear. Um, yeah, just wanted to make sure. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of the plan today, is to just kind of like check in on what everyone's working on, and maybe people can just like give a brief explanation of what they're writing about, and then we can kind of riff on that and see what see if we can help or add any new directions or anything like that. So I can start and we can test out this new format. So I am right. Hey, Julian. Um, I am writing an article that kind of, I chatted with this guy last week, and he was talking about how he's like a director who's like using uh, generative AI to basically, like, at this point, it's like he's using it as a way to like create assets to sell his film or like explore it further. So he has like uh he's like very competent with like stable diffusion and stuff. And so he basically like created a pipeline in stable diffusion that he fed the script, and then it was like generating images, and he's figuring out like a way to create basically a graphic novel to explore his film as it's in like uh I don't know, they're like in the process of like hiring actors and talent. But the other thing he was, and I guess what I was getting from it is that like the way the tools are being transforming, it's like bringing, what he was talking about is that the way the tools are developing, the kind of like conceptual thinking and technical thinking are growing a lot closer together. So the ability to like generate imagery is now a lot more attainable, I guess, in a way, for the director. He doesn't need like a whole camera team to do that necessarily. Like folks, and I think what I'm trying to write about are these directors that is a world where there are more and more like directing duos. So one of them is like specializing in the left brain, and one of them is specializing in like right brain skills, but they have this like synergy and are able to like create a lot of um, control over what they're making. Um, and then I was also thinking about like comedy and also journalists. And so like journalists are more and more using Substack to like connect more directly with their audience. And then comedians are like now more and more, instead of like releasing a special on Netflix, they're realizing that they can just release their special on YouTube and make a lot more money. So I'm kind of trying to write about this directing duo called Studio Mazo, run by Paula Lee and Vin Wallerman, and showing how they basically took all, you know, the 5 steps of production or the 7 steps of production and brought them all a lot closer in to themselves, and how they're kind of like starting a movement of like taking down these larger production companies because they're creating like outlets to connect with fans more directly. So sort of touching on the same like Web3 stuff that you were talking about, Jaron, but not necessarily talking about Web3, but more just talking about like filmmakers, you know, instead of going through Lionsgate to market the film, they just like build a community around them and release the films that way. That's kind of the gist of my article. I'm trying to figure out like what kind of, I guess what I started thinking about is why aren't filmmakers just doing this already? Like, why isn't Quentin Tarantino just release his film himself? You know, like people would, he has plenty of fans that would pay him directly for it. So,
Well, here's something I learned working in the advertising business and shooting a lot of like commercials and stuff is that filmmaking is a very waterfall process.
mhm,
Like the first thing needs to happen before the next thing, and so on and so forth. And it's very expensive, and it's very regimented, and the minute you throw some kind of chaos in there, you're kind of disrupting like an age-old process. And all this newfangled technology flips things around, like virtual
mhm,
studios, for instance. It puts the post-production at the beginning of the process instead of at the end of the process where it normally sits. And and Taryn, you said something about not needing storyboard artists. Like you can just whip up characters and sets in Unreal Engine rather quickly. So
Not
when
even
I
like
yeah,
Skybox. I can't go to in Unreal Engine, but like as a director, I'm doing storyboards in Skybox and with Midjourney. So because I can
Yeah.
give it each week, I have new new upgrades that allow me to actually like stipulate, you know, lenses and frame widths and stuff. It's really fascinating.
that's amazing. So yeah, so I guess the parallel of like when I was working in advertising, I was a digital guy, and I remember getting chewed out one day because an account person asked me, why does everything you do have to be some never been done before experiment? And then it dawned on me, it was like, oh yeah, like I kind of like, I'm accustomed to the chaos of it, and there's going to be a new set of filmmakers that are going to be accustomed to the chaos, that are going to embrace
mhm.
these new technologies, and they're not going to put the square pegs in the square holes necessarily. And so I like this idea. There's this disruptive angle to technology that kind of messes up the old school way, the the tried and tested way of doing things in the film world, I guess, to answer your question.
Kind of makes me think too, back to the early web series days in like 07, 08, even before YouTube had any appropriate streaming capabilities. I mean, there are limits when it came to lengths of videos, and the resolution were just like horrible. So people were building their own players. So like the first web
Mhm.
series that we produced in 08, our IT guy, he built a player and we hosted it on our site. And like, it was a show that we financed that we were able to make for 16 grand, 24, you know, micro episodes. They were like 4 minutes each, with other backstory episodes. There was like a total of 50 episodes, but we were able to do it because of, you know, the new DSLRs. And we just had a deal to be able to get good film lenses. But it was, you know, those were such techno leaps that, you know, we were able to become independent filmmakers and market it online and sort of create a community online. And that's just when Twitter was going up. So it kind of, that occurred, but then the brands just swooped in and they were like, oh, this is interesting. Let's try to like take this over as the studio. So there were this huge community of indie filmmakers that were making web series for portals like Daily Motion and Blip. And then sort of YouTube got into the fray and they did their YouTube Originals push, where all these top indie web series creators like Felicia Day were given a couple $100 grand to basically create a channel. And it was untenable and unsustainable because they were supposed to be basically programming a TV channel themselves with content on a daily basis. And they just, you know, they just couldn't do it for the money. So it all fell apart. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to look back, you know, at that time, because it wasn't that long ago. And that was sort of the beginning of this sort of indie filmmaker meets technology and online series.
Yeah. I'm like interested in digging a little deeper into that, because I think a couple of weeks ago we talked about how like the director's commentary on the DVD is no longer a thing because
Yeah.
we're streaming. And so there's also like in the music community, like musicians, they all have their Discord channels, and it's cool because people can like talk about the album, and then every now and then, you know, Harry Styles will jump into the actual chat and be there to talk directly to the fans. So there's like a whole community. You know, I think there's a way, and kind of to what Dre was saying, there's such a regimented like way for that the film industry kind of works, that but then there are all these other industries that are like more flexible seemingly, or like being disrupted, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
And I guess like it's cool to hear that it's already sort of happened and sputtered.
mhm.
I
But
bet you there's a lot. I bet you there's a lot that we can get some inspiration from looking at the movie DAO roadmap,
movie, okay,
because
I
they,
don't know.
yeah, like this is a few years ago. This is like when we were still doing a lot of web, like when Web3 was like a thing, and we were experimenting with DAOs. But I remember Movie DAO was one that I was part of. I probably still on their Discord somewhere, and I just like this idea that, you know, there is a trajectory where there are films that might be made collaboratively. Like there might not be one or two screenwriters on something, but it could be one mass contributed screenplay that people like. I might contribute just like that one really killer line, and that's the only thing that I did in the entire screenplay. But if you have an overarching decision maker deciding, you know, what gets approved or not, and now I'm thinking like, oh geez, maybe it's AI. Maybe AI is the thing that you submit your character treatment, submit your dialogue, submit your tone doc, whatever it is that you want to do that, and you can play part in it, and you get, you know, a proportion of the Mazuma. And yeah, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt and hit record. That's a
Yeah.
whole other. I love that. I downloaded everything. I even submitted stuff to it. Yeah, so there's that. And prior to hit record in the early 2000s, CBC had a show called Zed, and it was that was the premise. You would upload your content, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, they would do 2 hours of user generated content. And then you also mentioned Felicia Day, which I'm a huge fan of. Like I like Geek and Sundry, and there's a bunch of shows that I watch on there. And I thought like Dr. Horrible's sing along blog was maybe one of the best things to happen on my screen in the middle of a writer's strike.
Yep. That they beat us for the first Webby for best drama series. We were up against for our sci-fi series. I actually gave Neil Patrick Harris his streamy for that. Little
That's
fun
cool.
tidbit there.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Karen, I think you should take the floor now and maybe talk a little bit about what
Sure.
you're working on.
Sure. The main piece that sort of longer piece that I'm working on is an interview piece. And I'd had this, I sort of put a litany of ideas in a rough doc, and this idea really spoke to Thomas. And it's about an actress who gets embroiled in a sort of a scandal because she is reported to be using a brain-computer interface as an actress to assist her in memorizing her lines. But then it sort of goes further than that, in that BCIs, can they actually target your sort of emotional neurological capabilities? So are they, able to target your amygdala and allow you to access, deep emotions quicker than you can normally as an actor? Because my background is acting, and I spent, 20 years of my life having to cry on cue. So it's really interesting to me. And so this is kind of, I'm doing a research piece, right? I'm digging into sort of structures of interviews. I just read a really interesting piece in Vogue from Olivia Rodrigo, and a GQ article with Brad Pitt, which is the structure of that. But really formulating like, what does it look like in the future of meeting up with an actress who's sort of been at avant-garde in her use of technology. She started out as sort of a social media TikTok influencer type, financed one of her big sort of popular films through Web3, and now is sort of like reflecting on this new paradigm of this dirty secret of actors using BCIs in their work. So that's where I'm treading right now, and just building that sort of visual world of what is she wearing, and the fact that is it, or can we comment subtly commentate on sustainability and eco on like nanotech threads that reflect camera light so that she can't actually be photographed or something. Let me see what else is interesting. This idea of like, as part of your team for a top tier actress, you now have like a tech team. So I'm naming it like the technology integration specialists. So it's her TIS team. She has an AI dupe that she's licensed out to tons of brands. So she normally conducts all of her interviews in the metaverse. This is sort of the first time she's sort of done an in-person interview. So just looking at sort of what celebrity and actors look like in the future.
I love that. That BCI idea is so good.
Oh, thanks.
It's such a fresh, I'm like, oh, I wish I had thought of something like that. Okay, so I think that's a great interview. I think it would be really cool. It'd be really cool if there was an article that debates, BCI versus not BCI, like augmented actors. Is it really acting? If it's there's a whole other article that could be made there. And then I was thinking that maybe in the classifieds section, we might have like BCI, like gray market stuff, like the way the Android boxes are sold, kind of on the sly. It's this gray area.
Yep.
And it's like the home home style BCI implant surgery.
Right.
I'm struggling, tired
Yeah.
of waiting tables, wanting to access those tiers a lot faster.
Yeah.
Download the trauma pack.
That's great.
I'd love to make a design fiction daily of that. That would be a really fun one, like the BCI.
Yeah.
Like what does the implant look like? What does the box look like? What does the product do that? So if you're cool with that, I might just run.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's I have a note to myself, sort of stuck everywhere, being like, because Thomas brought up to me too, of like, make sure what are the images, like what are the design fiction type images that we could be creating alongside of this. And I have a friend who works at BlackRock Neurotech, and so her and she used to be an actress, and her name is actually Taryn as well, which is ironic. And so I've but I've been a sort of a nerd on the interface facet for a while, and so it just sort of her face and and the BCI sort of popped up into my head, and I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, because I don't think we're far off from that. Because is that I put in the document, is it really any different than when Marlon Brando would have cue cards held up behind the cameras because he couldn't memorize any of his lines later in his career? So, when it comes to the rote memorization, is that okay? And it's just the emotional elements that we can't, sort of simulate, but it takes so much time. Like I have this idea that, she's doing like kind of a grassroots redo of Hamlet. And I mean, Hamlet is the longest play pretty much known to man. And so it takes you months to be able to memorize something like Hamlet. But she's somebody who's running a corporation. She doesn't have time to do that. She has to, the word I'm looking for, offshoot that in a way. So that's sort of where I came up with as well.
Yeah, it makes me think of like other augmentations that an actor might have, like to be able to switch on an authentic accent.
Yes, oh, absolutely. But that's already out. That's already happening right now. You can live feed your voice, and Brad Pitt's voice will come out of the microphone.
Oh yeah. And then there's was another thought that came to. Oh, it was just I know that there's something with like magnetic frequency brain stimulation
Yep.
that's currently going on right now in order to like either
I
get
have
into
one.
a flow state. Oh, you have one. Okay, yeah. So
I don't use it.
so
Is that like fMRI?
So it's like the
no, it's
Halo. It helps you learn, like if you're learning
yeah, learning, yeah.
instrument.
Oh, I thought you said earn. It helps you earn.
I wish.
Here for the money, Julian.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's the advertisement.
Yeah.
Make money while you sleep, just with this thing. Oh, it's fucking good.
Oh, harvesting your sleep ideas for screenplay. It's kind of like yeah, that's good. Actually, I think I made a design fiction of that like a few months ago.
Great. At some point,
Great.
you're just gonna be like, you're gonna pull stuff from like an old tattered like little index card thing where people used to keep their recipes, and you
Yeah.
pull it out and be like, yeah, done that.
Yeah.
It's fun. I don't even remember half the stuff.
I did have one other like short article that's in the similar vein of called Star Edit, where edits with a 3, and it's about future proofing your movie from Scandal. So it's like an AI plugin that auto adjusts all the content to remove anything that's been canceled since your movie has been released. So it's like, there's a character or there's a topic or something that suddenly it could potentially put is no longer socially acceptable. And so this AI automatically adjusts it to an approved and popular word or topic. So basically, any character's face will be automatically adjusted to voice the proper name or word. So I'm just sort of playing around with that.
I really like
My dog's
that
here.
idea.
I like the idea of there being like a probability score of like maybe like this has a 78% chance of being canceled in the next 5 years. Do you still want to proceed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea, and I think it like denotes a really sort of change from content being like baked to content being like live and sort of infinitely editable because of the streaming system. So I think that's kind of like a good like affordance in this streaming medium for film.
Cool. I have the like celebrity full face remapping as an additional package where if like your lead actor actually is canceled, you can then virtually replace that actor with another actor, but that's a bigger package.
Are
Yeah.
you thinking about
When you
this
first
in terms? Go ahead, Camille. Sorry.
when you first mentioned the BCI, I was originally thinking instead of that being like fully sort of autonomously generated, like what about if you just had, a person and part of the process of, this person would sort of go to interviews and sort of act as you, but then they'd get mapped later. So like, is that someone who's experienced sort of more trauma as a means to make their acting like more dramatic? And then what does that look like? In terms of like, I don't have the emotional capability to do this, but if I find someone else and then, map my face on their face, what does that look like? And then, it's like the pipeline of like people who've experienced enough trauma to have enough emotional depth.
I like the idea of an acting double instead of a body double.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
And then you have
Something
people, you have people who are like maybe they might not look great, but they like are great actors and they do all the acting, and then you just map the good looking person's face on it. Done. Robert is your uncle.
Yeah. I was mentioning in your Google Doc the like, how actors they have to go do all the late night shows and they just do the same interview over and over again, like 6 times. And you could just like do it all at once. And the actor wouldn't have to deal with that anymore.
Well, that was kind of the idea of, having her sort of virtual twin in the metaverse that conducts all of her. It's such like a well-formulated, well-crafted digital dupe that she doesn't basically do any of her interviews anymore.
Well, what if it was the other way around? What if it was really the actress or the actor being
Doing the
interviewed
interviews
by a duplicate talk show host, like a digital dupe of a talk show host, and all the talk shows license parts of the interview and map Jimmy Kimmel on this one, and then map the other one on this one and this one, and it's the other way around. It's a real actor but duplicate talk show.
What if it's both and it's just this really inefficient use of technology where both of them are AI duplicates, and it's just like this hilarious like Hollywood has all these tools to make the world more efficient, or showbiz does, but they misuse them, and it's just this vicious cycle of of no one's real, and everyone's trying to make use of this tech, but they're doing it in just dumb ways. I don't know.
I like the idea of it backfiring. Like if the virtual actor and the virtual talk show host start to communicate in a language that we don't understand, and shit starts happening,
Yep.
like a new
That's a
movie gets
good-
created, and like that's an error. That's like, okay, we can't let that happen. There always has to be one human being the interviewer or the interviewee. That's a new rule that's being imposed.
That just
That's-
happened with the Facebook large language models where they had two of them conversing and
Yeah.
they started speaking in a language that nobody understood.
Yeah, that's what I was taking some inspiration from.
That's great. What was I just thinking? Ah.
Okay, there's a bunch of random things that come to mind when I think of this. Going back to directors, you know, not having to, let's say storyboard, or maybe to pre-visualize, or what the DSLR did to content creation in that area. I was just thinking, there's a funny idea of like taking all the large camera brands and making weird little desktop computer rendering things, so that you're shooting your film virtually, but you're using like a Panasonic or a Panavision camera, or you're using an Arri camera or something along, or not a camera, but like an Arri monitor box. And then I also think of the idea of like, what if a catering company became a production studio? Like, what if the biggest catering company did just they used the technology in such a way that they were able to become like the next A24, and it was all because of the pastries that they offered. It started with the pastry, and it turned into like, you're the second largest movie studio. How did that happen?
I would like to see
I like-
you figure
Find
that
out.
one out.
Yeah. I like
And I
that
mean
as kind of a paradigm for employee training videos, right?
Oh yeah.
You know,
So the-
because like think about like every restaurant or like, whatever, like chain has to do employee training videos. And what about if they make so many products, they have to produce so many that then it just enters that level of production where they are competing.
yeah, like the employee training video, one of them goes viral and it becomes this hit. It's like it's got all the suspense and the drama and the intention and the obstacle that you would find in a great movie, but in a training video. And it got a limited release in small rep cinemas or something.
Yeah, that's such a cool, like I think of friends who are indie producers really trying to sort of break the Hollywood system. And they do a lot of those sort of movie, like city by city, really community, taking over community theater, but really sort of making inroads in that community before they do so. So it becomes this very event driven screening. But it's like, what if it happens within a large corporation where there's like a touring movie within that larger business ecosystem, and something springs out of that? I don't know. It started as a training video. Oh, but wasn't there something out there where somebody believed that it was a training video, or it was really a movie, but it was really something like, there's an article out there about something that went viral that was a training video that people thought was real, or vice versa. Can't remember. I'll find that.
Okay, I think we will move to Camille now and her article on ratings.
Oh yeah, I was just working on an article that's like, basically a family is trying to sue the ratings board because the AI did not teach their kid to recognize danger well enough. So, there's some hapless, slightly funny, but still tragic accident that like, why didn't the AI introduce this situation to my child? They should have reacted with fear, right? In terms of, I'm not sure if that's going to be like interfacing with a wild animal in some way, and like, not realizing it was wild, and the like assumption that the child has that like I can pet every squirrel. But basically like looking at kind of how movie companies started to self-police themselves in terms of rating, to not like go, to not walk all over sort of decency laws, you know, as a mean of financial protection. So, you know, in a future where people are sort of reliant on AI for everything, including sort of education and infotainment, what does that look like when, you know, the AI fucks up, right? And like, how can you kind of, because the way we talk about AI, we kind of give it this credit of being sort of omnipresent and omni-intelligent when that's not quite true. So if you guys have ideas and or, you know, ideas for sort of a funny but tragic, you know, means of death, that's something that's sort of dangerous that, you know, kids are taught to recognize early, but like an AI wouldn't necessarily think to teach a kid, you know? I mean, it could be like burns from a hot stove or something, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. And if you guys have, you know, any ideas in that space, obviously, like, please riff on it. But, you know, this is supposed to be like, you have this article that on sort of the page book facing it, you have, you know, like are you seeking compensation from, you know, AI related injury, et cetera?
Yeah, I wonder if there's I don't know if this is not answering your question, but I do think that there might be a chance to kind of like tie in the star edit tool into this. Just sort of like
What's a star edit tool?
the one that Taryn mentioned that was
Oh, right.
yeah.
Oh, like a person, yeah.
Or just like something changed, like they kept on changing it. I don't know. There's something. It might be too loose of a connection, but it
No,
feels
I mean,
like
I
so.
think I don't think it's too loose of a connection. I think it has the potential to go too deep, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
thinking about how like I was listening to a podcast recently about Jimmy Savile, you know, and everyone was like, oh yeah, this guy was super famous, but he was like a total creep, you know, and he's kind of the like archetype of like pedophiles, basically, you know, like why weren't more people, you know, like fucking on watch for this kind of behavior when, you know, he sort of acts and like leans into the archetype for it, right? So like
Mhm.
that could be a way in terms of like face shifting, you know, like maybe this
I
person
wonder
was
if it's
only
like
taught to recognize like something else as a like a human threat versus not.
would it be helpful to think about it not in like a future danger that doesn't necessarily exist in our world, you know? Or should it be something more mundane?
I kind of like it being like a little bit mundane, you know, like how, you know, like the spilling too hot coffee on yourself in the McDonald's drive-through, you know, like that's kind of the
Yeah.
level where it's like, this is tragic. This person really hurt themselves, you know, and also like, you know, but they sort of should have assumed it was hot, you know, but maybe because of their information or because there wasn't, you know, caution, maybe hot on the label, right? Like kind of that weird gray area where like you're surprised that the people won in that instance, you know, like the woman won that lawsuit with the too hot coffee. So like what's the equivalent there, you know, like why would my child think the stove is hot? You know, the AI didn't show my child that the stove is hot, right?
And maybe
Well,
even they tried to sue the movie studio first, and that was thrown out of court. And so now they're trying to sue the MPAA, you know, some sort of governing board. So this is something that has been sort of in the news for a while, in the legal system for a while. So you can maybe comment why, you know, the judge threw out this this case with the movie studio.
yeah, there are things that happen in movies that people will try to replicate in real life, and that could be in something like that, like all these various you know, TikTok challenges. Like maybe some movie shows a guy like, you know, making toast in the bathtub, and all of a sudden it becomes, you know, it's like
Oh yeah.
bathtub toast challenge. Remember shower beer? Guess what? Bathtub
Yeah.
toast is the new thing.
I like that kind of paradigm, right? Monkey see, monkey do. But I kind
Yeah.
of want to like leverage that to a level of ridiculousness, you know,
Yeah.
like maybe, oh, well, you know, in this movie, he saw how they created this botnet, so he did that too, you know, and are now like sponsoring these DDoS attacks or something, like almost like a level of kind of like intellect where it's not assumed people have that maybe. But I like the bathtub toaster challenge. I think that's,
Also,
you know,
I like the like underlying hint there that the MPAA is also regulating like short form content. Like 15-second or less type deals, and that's sort of like entering into the world. I mean, not something that you have to like talk about, but that's sort of like, oh, it's weird that that's happening. You know, like you don't have to get into why that happened, but it's nice that it's there.
I like the idea of there being like 10-second trigger warnings and ratings that happen before a 6-second commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, viewer discretion's advised, like 2 seconds, done.
That's a good one.
Do you remember?
Could they,
Have
how could
any
you,
of
how
you-
could that, what are the, is there some that feel like it could be integrated with just, I don't know, like, is there, Thomas, is there like a mailbag section or whatever, those things where people, letters or something? Like the mailbag feels like scrappy enough we could just be like, we just pulled some out, and some people are like, we're losing our ad budget because we have to put in these 6-second bumpers to warn, people that watching this ad may screw with their neurodiverse selves.
Yeah, so right now we have one letter to the editor that Florian wrote on. His character is frustrated with the WGA's large language model, but there's definitely room to write more of these.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, there could be an editor, a letter from the editor talking about the fine line between trigger warnings and spoilers. It's like
Yeah.
trigger warning
Or like,
versus
what
spoiler
about
alert.
What does that mean?
what about if trigger warnings or like content warnings get more and more in depth? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
content warnings, ancestral emotional trauma,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like
like looking at like the mental health aspect.
yeah, it becomes very specific. It becomes
Yeah.
Oddly
it's like
specific.
yeah, it's like this following feature film contains ancestral trauma and animal misbehavior and death. And now you just know. It's like I know the premise of the freaking story now.
Yeah, or people falling
dog
down.
bites it.
It's just
Yeah,
like
or
the simplest
People,
thing.
yeah,
And there is
fall-
this,
That's not funny. That's not funny at all. Yeah.
has gruesome sounds of snapping ACLs.
Yeah. Oh.
I just imagine this like Star Wars scroll at the beginning of a movie where it has to list everything very specifically. And it's like in Act 2, there's this person says this, which could be offensive to this person. I mean, that's overboard, but
Or maybe
I
just
put-
warning on the screen for when to leave the theater, like just a little at the bottom, if triggered by, sexual abuse, like leave now, return, in 5 minutes or something.
It's a
Right? Just
or
like
just
hyper
close-
specific.
Yeah. Or,
Or
yeah,
just close your eyes.
we'll text
Countdown.
you when it's okay to come back in.
It's actually, it starts as a surtitle on the film with a countdown, so you know exactly when, like it's
Totally.
loud
Yeah.
sound warning in 3, 2,
Two.
1. Cut to the jump scare.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's ruining the flow of the movies these days.
How trigger
Takes me
warnings
right out of it.
How trigger
But
warnings
I
have
think-
changed aspect ratios.
I think you could also add to, I think subtitles nowadays already have become much smarter with some players. So they have like the subtitles placed on the position of the actors dynamically in
Hmm.
some cases. So there is something happening already in this direction. And I think you could start with this, and then you have a different layer on automatically created trigger warnings.
Yeah.
So please close your
Yeah.
eyes in 5 seconds.
I also see a movie review for an experimental film called Trigger Warning, where there's no actual film. It's just nothing but trigger warnings that come up, and it becomes a theater of the mind. Like you build the story in your mind, and all you're seeing are trigger warnings.
Yeah,
And then the
loud
movie
explosion.
reviewer,
Yeah.
very subjective,
Yeah.
interpretive movie.
Like
Entire
Like some people are-
entire magazine emptied. Okay. well,
Yeah.
Shooting at someone.
some people only watch trailers, so they might only watch trigger
That's
warnings.
right. That's right. Well, I think for speaking of the trailer thing, I feel like we need like a studio that is just or maybe a kind of release or a special edition that is the entire film, but just kind of filtered down to like 7 minutes.
Yeah, so I do a weird thing where like I have this fascination with Korean films, and I watched YouTube breakdowns. So like a 90-minute or a 2-hour Korean film is literally walked through in 40 minutes by somebody who literally explains every single step of the film from beginning till end. And that's how I've watched a bunch of Korean films, like in the worst possible way ever, but it kind of works, and it almost feels like that might be a new way to watch movies.
With just someone explain to you what's going on.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
don't have to learn
Yeah,
the
you're
language.
optimizing for efficiency.
Yeah.
You know,
And you get the
I want to be
story.
able to talk to my friends about this movie, but I don't really want to have to invest the time.
Yeah, or I don't
Yeah.
even have to watch it. The guy's just telling me what's going on the screen.
Yeah. And then you're like, whoa, I know Kung Fu.
It's
Yeah.
it's like streamers
But to
and
preserve
people watching streamers playing games, right?
Right. Yep. Yep.
But
Oh,
to
yeah, that's
preserve
actually-
the sanctity of the medium, they should just present you with like a color palette. And then like they're the 3 main actors. Give you more to talk about.
I'm trying to think about your original question, Camille, about what could happen. And you know, like I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but there was that like in like the final season, there was like a water bottle left on the table and they like CGI'd it out. I wonder if it could be like one of those situations where they like made a mistake and the editing software didn't catch it and it like pointed to this thing that you shouldn't do. Like maybe they left like a knife on the table, like
Yeah, or
pointing the
like
wrong direction. And so the kids
I like that. Well, because I like the option of maybe the parents making the software too safe, right? And then
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the kid
yeah.
has no idea what dangers there are because they're just all been edited in sort of the, effort to be safe.
It could also
Maybe
be
the-
that the editing AI made a mistake because the content of the story triggered its jailbreaking patterns. And so it replaced something that it shouldn't have replaced, or it replaced with something like very bad.
Well, I was just imagining like maybe some period piece where you just full on see the sound guy like smack dab in the middle of the frame, but he's wearing like this gaudy looking Hawaiian shirt, which basically is an adversarial fashion shirt that basically obfuscates computer vision. So like the AI editor just didn't see it, didn't recognize that it was one of the
Exactly.
one
Yeah.
of the crew because of the adversarial shirt he was wearing, and somehow he ended up in the film, but like in a not so subtle way.
Or what about like a floating hand if it's like an adversarial tattoo or something? It's like, oh my God, there's just this like disembodied hand.
Yeah. Or like an actor with an additional hand or something.
I like the idea of there being a dress code imposed in the film industry where it's like you can't wear anything with a face on it. So you can't wear your 2-pack shirt to the on set, and you can't wear anything that looks like a face. So anything that's kind of like 2 buttons with a line in that, right, like that's too much. Like the computer vision software will get confused and start tracking you as one of the actors.
Yeah, that's great. Like all equipment is black because of if it ends up in the background, it doesn't show up
Right.
so bad. Yeah.
Okay.
We recently shot a like a little testing movie on a set, and it was a Western, and we really had the Wi-Fi router in the back, and we just realized when we were completely done with it. And it's fascinating how easy it is to overlook these things.
Yeah, I made my big rookie mistake on a film set. I was like all excited to buy gaff tape, and I was like, I'm gonna buy the hot pink one because no one else has that. And the DP was like, "Are you seriously using that?" I was like, "Yeah." Learn quick there. Florian, do you want to talk about Gear Corner or the lot? I mean, you've written many.
Oh,
You want to introduce
it
Gear
was.
Corner since it's the new one?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. So I started working on it now because I finished another assignment, so I got a bit more time. The idea would be that we have a section with reviewing filmmakers' gear. And I was thinking who might be the person reviewing it, because I would prefer it not to be like my real me, but maybe like some avatar guy that is maybe a bit like a seasoned professional that is a bit cynical but actually loves filmmaking. And so I think it could be a nice section because I think it's easy to produce content, and could be. So I had some proposals for content. I wrote one in the morning. Did you look into it, Thomas? Maybe.
Yeah, I sent you. I looked at
Awesome.
it. I thought it was. I liked the tone of it.
So this one was a like an app for Apple's Vision Pro, being called Showrunner's Cockpit, and this would be like a like a controller app where you could run your showrunner daily business, involving a lot of fancy features, like obvious ones like AR frame lines, blocking floor plan stuff, gesture-based speed ramps, fun thing, and then also some more complicated stuff like an option to control the whole set, and so on. And the reviewer is skeptical about it, but he references his friend who uses it and is happy about it. And like a subtopic in this one for me would be to talk a bit about the showrunner role, but from a position that is past the hype. So it's like looking back at the showrunner being like the prolific role of the golden era of streaming. And the reviewer is mentioning it a bit like, yeah, it's funny that people still do this crazy shit while the golden era is over. But for people who actually still work that way, this could be a cool app.
It would be interesting. Just a thought is, if AI and automation is taking care of all that frenetic, fast-paced stuff, are showrunners, are they now just show walkers? You have a few show walkers on a show. They just kind of like gently walk through the process, let the AI do all the really hard stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I had one feature in mind that went a bit in the direction, but not so precisely. It was the called the Malik mode, and this would be like an option to with creative freedom. Oh, my doggy has to protect me. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good idea. I think you could expand on this.
And one thing I wanted to mention about your article, or I messaged it this morning, but this is really good because Zach, who isn't able to be here today, is like he's writing a feature article about like a production company, and it's like a reporter that is basically like detailing all of the processes they're using, and it's like I think it's like in a way it's pretty pro this technology. So this is like a nice kind of like counter
yeah, that's great
to it. Yeah, so I'm really pumped about this tool that you're exploring.
I also wanted to DM Brandel, I think he was called, the guy from Apple, and I wanted to ask him if he wants to give me some like DM level input on it. Maybe there's some stuff, because he also was like very passionate about it.
Yeah. I think
it's nice.
Like early on, you mentioned the Apple Vision Pro. Like, I could see an advertisement for like gesture libraries, like different packs, since it's all sort of gesture controlled.
That's great. Yeah.
You know, so like
Makes
that could be like, you
absolute
know,
sense.
upgrade your experience, you know, finer tune gesture control, like that kind of, you know, or sort of encrypted gesture control. You know, like you don't want actors to get self-conscious when they see you zooming in on a certain person or not, right?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think it could be like for like a very specific area, like, I don't know, maybe, yeah, it could be AI prompting or something, or like some very movie specific thing. Sounds
I
cool.
wonder if there's like an image to generate of like a new video village, you know, like all these, you know, 6 people in director's chairs and like all wearing these headsets with like doing gestures or something. I'm trying to like imagine what this looks like.
Yeah, this is the direction of Trey, right? The
Yeah,
showrunner. No, yeah, I like that. Could be a
I
cool
like kind of,
advertisement as well.
I'm
me, that-
feeling like, oh, go ahead, Camille.
sorry, I'm in a loud place, but to me, that sort of seems like the way in which like tech and like, oh, all of these like software engineer, you know, living in bunk beds in these tiny San Francisco apartments. Like I see kind of that type of sort of cultural biasy when talking about programmers being talked about to like these video village people, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, 6 of us in this studio apartment, we just need enough space, you know, to gesture, to control, right? It's like kind of like a paradigm shift from like
yeah.
a sort of, you know, code monkey to entertainment streaming, like render monkey.
I just imagine like Video Village being like a 360-degree virtual studio.
Yeah.
Like the clients are like
Oh, yeah.
literally in fully immersed in the middle. Some of them are coming out screaming, wanting to be let out.
I'm gonna share.
That's
Zach
great.
has an outline that he sent. By the way, in the Figma there, I have like in the in progress section, I have all of our articles with links to the Google Docs that we're using. So we don't necessarily need to post our whole articles into the Figma, but you can just put the link there and we can check out,
Great idea.
you know, what we're working on. But yeah, I'm gonna put the Zach's thing in the Zach's outline in the chat, I think, because I just say this because he definitely talks about details the situation. So that's cool. Like I think he has like a extended reality collaboration room at the Quantum Labs production company. So that might be fun to read about. I'll put this in the chat and see. He might not grant. He's traveling, but I'll try to get everyone access to that document if we don't already have it.
Cool.
But yeah, I think I liked your tone of it, of like what is the utility of this tool really, and
That's great.
yeah.
And so I had some more ideas. I mean, of course, if somebody else got ideas, please feel free to chime in. So some more ideas for devices were, let me remember. One was this, how did I call it? This Kodak InstaFilm Mac. So the idea would be, this is like a Mac for an analog camera. For shooting analog movies, but it's a special type of film stock that is looped and that gets instantly digitalized and then refreshed so you can shoot it again. So because a lot of people like to shoot analog, but in the end it always gets digitalized anyways. And so I think this could be like an interesting idea that it's kind of continuously looping and making it digitally direct.
Are you sure you want to put that in Green Pages, or do you just want to patent that? Because that's a
Yeah.
kind of a great
Yeah,
idea.
that's what- actually, yes, that's what I was thinking as well. Let me talk to our patent. Oh, no, I shouldn't, because then it's a company patent. Yeah.
Oh. All right, guys, I have to bounce.
Yeah.
Cool. Am I reading that idea right? In that it's like almost like a Polaroid type deal, but for moving pictures?
Exactly. That was the
Yeah.
idea. Yeah, but for shooting movies. Exactly.
Great.
And with like a directly digital connection to it. I think that could be fun. I think it's
Cool.
probably impossible on the chemical level, but never
They'll
mind.
have something for that.
Yeah.
They'll have
Yeah. Yeah, then I had two more ideas, but I can't remember them right now. But I will
I think
soon that is
I
last.
looked at all of them. I looked
I,
at all.
I
I
have
mean, it
a-
all sounds
Yeah,
great, and I like.
one was right. I remember one that was like the prop hunter. So we had prop hunter already somewhere else, and I think it would be nice if it also pops up again in the review section.
Yeah, we have Prop Hunter
yeah.
and Classified, so it would be cool to.
Yeah. And I was thinking it might be fun. So the one I did now was a bit longer. I think I might shorten it a bit so that it doesn't get too chatty. But I think some of the reviews also might be very short and snarky. You know, like
Yeah,
just dismiss something with 3 good, well-written sentences or praise something. So that there's like a rhythm in the style they are written, because I think reviews can become very boring if they are all very thoroughly and very long, then it's a bit boring.
I like the section being almost as much about the person writing it as it is about the gear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my idea as well, and so that people actually like to read it because it's also about the person in a way.
Yeah, and then he has like a following, and he's,
Exactly.
he does his
It's
thing
a bit
on
like
Green
this.
Pages, but he also has a Substack and blah 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 blah, blah whatever.
Exactly. There is. I read an interview with the. I forgot his name. It was the. It was the head film critic from New York Times, I think, and I think he resigned his post last year or so after doing this for 20 years.
Mhm.
And he kind of was this way. So I think it could. I mean, I never can write like this, obviously, but this idea of the critic being really like a person, so people are reading
Yeah.
it for the person and not for the text. I think that's fun.
Cool. Well, it seems like we have a lot of good ideas coming into
Yeah.
the world, and then I guess the other thing is to start writing more like little letters to the editor. That sounds like a fun avenue to go down. But yeah, it seems like things are getting made, which is great.
Yeah, it's super, it's awesome. So sorry, I was missing because I'm just a little bit distracted. Where are you capturing some of the stuff that people are saying? Like, is there?
So there's an in progress section in the document in the Green Pages Figma.
Oh, in the
And
Figma.
so I'm putting
Yeah.
And so there's like links to I'm collecting all the links and putting them on a page in there.
Okay, cool.
I don't really.
Figma is kind of weird, right? I think it's a bit like in the beginning it's very promising, but then quickly it's a bit disappointing because it's as nitty gritty, clicky, shitty as InDesign and Photoshop, and it looks like it would be as easy as Miro boards are, but then we also use it at work, and it's always, yeah, we did it in Miro. Okay, great. Yeah, we did it in Figma. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
It's fine.
honestly,
Don't sweat it. But
I'm
at some
not,
point
yeah,
we'll find like a uniform workflow. I don't even, just even
It's the best
like a
tool, I
shared
guess. Yeah.
drive or something like that. Just where, so it's like
yeah,
you have to go into
I,
Figma to find a list.
right. Yeah, it's like you start out and it's like this blank canvas, and it's like I'm gonna have
Mhm.
this thing running like a Ferrari, and then everything just starts going everywhere. I also like don't have the brain or I'm working on this part of my brain in terms of organizing projects. But
Yeah,
um,
it all hurts in one way or another.
yeah, strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's kind of my task for the rest of today is to get that hopefully a little more legible. But as long as things are still getting made, I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I'm looking forward to being able to pop back in. Just caught up trying to finish the Androids cards and some logistic stuff.
what's up with a new book written by Ari Waller? Ari,
Ari Birnbaum?
yeah. Didn't you just come out with another one?
Yeah, some of the books aren't real on the website.
The one on Instagram that you just put out's not real. It looks like you took a real photo of it.
Which one?
Let me find it.
The actually it turns out, I mean, I don't know if that was actually a good one to do. It turns out the book is real. I just changed the author. But it's a real book that you look at the jacket
It,
blurb
it looks
and
like
you're
a
kind
real book to me.
I mean it is, but that's a render of it.
Oh,
But you read the jacket blurb on the back and it's kind of like, yeah, people are thinking about, like our association with machines like back in the 60s.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a real book. I can't quite reach it from here. I just changed the name of the author. I don't know why I did that, but Ari Birnbaum is one of our characters. Like he's all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, you got me. I was like, the cover is beautiful. I mean, the book is beautiful.
I mean, I found it on. I mean, I follow Julian Montague pretty closely, and he does a
Uh-huh.
whole bunch of.
Oh, is this him?
No, that is a real book by Doubleday. Back, it's a used one. It's a used book that I got because I liked the cover because I saw it on Julian Montague's feed. It's like, oh, that's a really nice design, and it's on point. Machines and Mentality, or whatever it's called.
Okay.
I'm not sure why I
Yeah.
changed the author. I don't know if that was a particularly good idea necessarily.
Well, now I
just
get
wanted
it.
to I just wanted to, build our cast of characters.
For sure.
But it is a real book.
So where are you using your characters? Else?
Well, like Ari is in a bunch in a bunch of things in the TBD catalog. He's a lawyer and he's selling real estate on the metaverse real estate.
He's a lawyer.
Hell of a guy.
Hell of a guy. He's like one of those so here's him selling real estate.
That's amazing.
And I use the same
Shouldn't he pop up in green pages as well?
There's a faulty algorithms.
Okay, yeah.
Class action law lawyer for faulty algorithms.
Selling a little data card for lawyer data card. I like that we have just people who kind of keep popping up in weird places.
Yeah, I forget who Augie Wallerman's son is in my article. Ben. But yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'll put this recording up. Julian, I can't get in on I'll try again to get in on the
if it didn't work, it's probably something is set up wrong. Maybe we can if you have,
I'm like a manager. I'm a manager, but I can't.
Well, if
I
you have,
feel
if you
like
have a
I've-
minute, do you want to try to figure it out right now while I?
Yeah. Yeah, we can figure it. Let's do that.
Where do I go?
I think you just reached the natural state of management.
um. Yeah, where do you even go? Customize channel? No, it doesn't sound right. Branding, earn, audio, content, analytics, settings, permissions.
Yeah. So then I accepted, and I can like get into manage this account, and I can manage the permissions and stuff, but I can't. Maybe here. It's not like it didn't like add an account to my YouTube studio or anything.
Yeah, I don't even know. It doesn't even like I'm trying to find the thing where it says manage users or something.
Floyd, I don't. If you don't need to, we'll just figure out this YouTube thing.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
I'm busy. I'm
Oh,
busy petting my dog. So I'm in
looks
no
tuckered
hurry.
out. Okay.
It's too warm for her. She would walk 10 meters and then she just jumps into the cold grass. Okay, folks, that was fun.
Yeah.
All right.
See you soon.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Communications manager. Maybe you need to be manager. See what happens.
Are you in like Google generally or YouTube?
I mean, it says myaccount.google.com. It says
Okay.
manage permissions. It's got me, primary owner, you. I just changed you to manager, and then Fabian and Nicholas, who don't upload videos.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm in. Sweet.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I'll post this recording once it downloads to the cloud or whatever.
Okay,
Sweet.
good deal.
All right. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you. Talk to you.
Yeah.
Talk to you in a bit.
Okay. Bye bye.